Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Surprise!
Let's
Traders,
go.
how are we doing today? God bless each and every
I'll
single
wake
one
up
of you
to
guys. Today, we're going to be going over stock ticker AMC, GameStop, as well as IWM in the broader market and how this is applicable to our favorite stocks. Before we started, I want to say thank you guys for the 118 likes, 106 likes, 155 likes. Y'all are killing it. So make sure to do the same, right? Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help the algorithm push. And let's get straight into the video, guys. Make sure, stay the full length because we're going to be going over AMC. What it is doing right now is insane, right? You have an almost 70% run from this bottom that we called 62%, right? This is getting a little out of hand. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight days of green, baby. Let's freaking go. As you dive into the bull zone on the RSI for the first time in a year, guys. Touching the bull zone for the first time since May 27th of 2025 when you saw a 23% run. Now this happens, right? We talked about multiple things. We talked about the daily 9-day crossing through the 50 being a very, very bullish short-term cross. We also talked about AMC getting into the bull zone on the daily time frame being where the boom boom candles occur, guys, and that's exactly what you're seeing, right? So a hesitation right around the cross, and then you saw buying volume spill in 7.41%, 6.21%. This thing is on absolute tear. And you're starting to hit your first neckline of resistance, right? So I put this as a very specific resistance because of this consolidation on top of the channel that brought you lower. However, right, you saw this retest and then a spillover. I definitely see a scenario where you just blast through this, right? You get to 173 and then you see boom, right? Rejection. And that's what we're watching for here on AMC. We're watching for how you react to this long-term macro downtrend. Because what you do here is going to be very critical to what you do in the macro chart when you see this is your pennant resistance from 2021, guys. I know you all remember this time, right? Euphoric. Now look at where you are on AMC. You are finally testing or about to test that downsloping resistance. And what you do is going to determine on the macro how this thing trades. Let's just jump into IWM for a little bit before we get back into AMC on Webull. IWM seeing a very, very beautiful day, a gap up 1.38% as the broader market sees a little bit of clarity in some regulative stuff. I'm trying to remember what it was exactly, but who cares, right? We're up 1.38%. That's what matters, right? What is a little worrying is you're continuing to see, right, this volume trend on the daily time frame as you continue to rip on IWM. You're seeing volume just kind of staircase down here. So one way or another, you will see either bulls or bears make a decisive move here. And you're a little overextended on the daily time frame. You did fill the gap that was sitting right around 268.94, right? You filled that today, you wicked off of it, and you closed at the high or almost at it. So I do anticipate you find a little bit of hesitancy here, and you find a retracement to fill the gap you left today at 265, or this trend line for a nasty, nasty retest that'll inevitably take you higher. All right, back into AMC for all you degenerates, right? AMC. So AMC on Webull. I really, really like to chart on Webull because it gives you the momentum indicators, right? It gives you the MACD, it gives you the moving averages, and the gap fill taglines, right? And so on AMC, we were getting a little bit worried about this rally, seeing as though your volume trend had been down for quite some time, right? And you're going up just like IWM. But today, right, you saw a boom, boom, up 6.21% as you saw that very, very good cross, the short-term momentum bullish cross of the 9 going through the 50. I do anticipate here, right, a little bit of a explosion up to this horizontal resistance sitting at 178. And when you do the technical confluence very, very close to a rejection on this downsloping resistance. So prices gravitating towards that 178 zone, I tend to think it's going to get there, right? And if you do, right, you're going to peek a little bit out of this resistance, a little peeky weeky candle for you guys on AMC. And it's going to be interesting to see how the stock reacts if you pull back and you have this more shoulder, head, shoulder formation. That will look very, very good for the bulls on the macro of AMC to hopefully claim this as a bottom, right? And for anyone who is a bear on AMC right now, well, you got cooked, right? You got cooked 62%. So we're watching very closely to see how the stock reacts to a pullback, right? If you see one of these nasty, nasty pullbacks, it's very possible that you chop, reject, and go to the bottom of this wedge again, right around 92 cents. That is possible, traders. So never rule that out because you have multiple gap fills down there that are highlighted on Webull. The first one sitting at 112, the second one sitting at 128, right? So you're very, very extended on AMC right now. So let's just take the wins. And I really, really wanted to talk about Amy on the weekly because you have freaking beautiful, beautiful candle closes out of this falling wedge formation that we charted, seeing a 3 white soldiers formation, traders, out of this. Right? This is one of the most bullish macro reversal candlestick formations in the entire market. And so this is where it gets exciting, right? Because I did, in fact, call this on Neo Stock when we went to the monthly chart. You had this 3 white soldiers formation, right? One of the most bullish ones, especially when you see the rising volume. You saw a pullback to the support line, and now you're seeing a higher high potentially. On AMC, you are seeing a very similar macro look, right? You had this falling wedge, and then you saw, boom, 18%, 14%. You're now up 14% again. And how you close this week, traders, is going to tell me how the next month of price action is going to go, right? So very, very fascinating stuff here on the weekly. And then on the quarterly, guys, on the quarterly chart, you have a green candle for the first time in almost a year, guys. So what we're watching for here is a cross up on the quarterly MACD. And when you go from trading view, right? When you go from trading view to the quarterly chart, you actually have got it, which is fascinating, right? You've got that quarterly MACD cross. So what we're watching for now is, what is your quarterly candle going to be? Because it could so easily, traders, be a bullish engulfing candle, and it could so easily break you out of this long-term macro wedge that we've been talking about on AMC. And if that happens, guys, this thing can get very exciting very fast, right? Because we had 1, 2, 3, and we called this fourth tap. It's a little easier to see on the weekly chart. We called this fourth tap of this falling wedge, and you've seen a really, really nice and strong bounce off of this, just like you did here and just like you did here, right? So what we're watching for is the follow through. We're watching for the volume and what you do once you reach these very important historically horizontal lines. So that's what we got today for AMC. Let's jump into GameStop because we have some news today going over GME's Power Pack launch tomorrow. And this actually came with a very, very nice green day for GameStop. Seeing the pop in volume here up 24 to 24.30, right? And when you go to the daily chart, you see the beautiful, beautiful volume as you closed above the 200-day EMA for the first time in quite some time, right? You had traded underneath the 200-day EMA for what feels like almost a full calendar month. And the beautiful thing about this is you've cleared your horizontal resistance, right? This neckline at 23.50, I believe, acted as pretty stubborn resistance, and inside of it you created this shoulder head shoulder price action, right? So you created a pattern within the pattern, right? So this was a falling wedge or a pennant formation. You form this inverted head and shoulders, and now the profit target's taking you to the previous high at $25. And the hilarious thing here is you could get this shoulder head and then hit 25 and then create another shoulder and create an even bigger inverted head and shoulders. And when you zoom out, you're almost in an even bigger head and shoulders. So this thing is hilarious. It almost is mimicking itself. But what we're watching here is the volume, right? The volume on the day saw a break of 1, 2, 3, 4 trading days off of this good news. And on the weekly time frame, you're now bumping your head on this resistance. You wicked right outside of it. And if you see a break, it is possible, right? You come up to 25, above 25, you are absolutely going bonkers. And that's what everyone's watching here on GME right now, because the profit target from this is the extension of the flag. And the extension of the flag takes you up to $30. We all know once you get above the point of control on GME, typically the volatility kicks in, right? You see volume stair step its way back in May of 2025. And I expect no different, right? If you get back above $30. On the daily chart, though, you do have the gap fill currently sitting at 28.42 that I expect to act as resistance first as you bumped your head here on it back in October of 2025. It's not highlighted, but you do have a gap here as well at 29.66. And then the all-time macro gap on GME currently sitting at 72 schmeckles. Zooming in here, this is back in 2021 during this first equity offering. 72.88 was this gap down. You saw a freaking amazingly red day, 27% to the downside. So that's what we're watching on GME. You have great news propelling you higher, and it's now going to be the follow through. If you can hold, right, even if you don't break out, if you can hold these prices, what you're seeing is a side effect of the 9 crossing through the 50, and then it would cross to the 200, and then you would get a spillover snowball, right? You would get the 50 through the 200 because this thing has been flat. But what's exciting now, traders, is you have the 200 beginning to curl up because this only takes into account 200 days of trading. 200 days ago, you saw this nasty move down, right? And so this is being factored out of the GME 200-day weighted EMA. So the fact that you are factoring that big downside candle out, this allows for the 200 moving average to begin to slope up easily, right? Easily. So just you being above it right now is very bullish, because going back to NEO, right, what you saw on the daily time frame was the most bullish scenario for these stocks, right? You saw the weighted 200 get crossed above, and both the 50 and the 200 were curling up when you saw a golden cross retest and a spring off of it. That's what we're watching for GME. And that's what you want to see, is something along the lines of this, right? Maybe you trade back to test it, you spring out, you make your local high, and then you come back and you test that 200, both sloping upwards. And then you spring out, right? So that's what I think is the most bullish scenario on GME. We'll cover the warrants for my boy Only in Paradise, and then we will wish you all good luck. Warrants, GME. Oy vey. Cannot type. There we go. All right, so the GME warrants today saw a green move, although you're still beginning to flag out a little bit. My concern here is you're still below the 200 and the 9-day EMA on the daily time frame, and you're seeing just this really stark consolidation at a key level that you want to see bouncing, right? We had this horizontal trend line, and you've closed above it successfully, as this was your neckline back during this gap up, right? And what you did on 410 was you saw a beautiful freaking hammer candle, guys. Beautifully bullish hammer candle coming back down to fill the gap that we talked about at 329, right? That is very important to the overall technical look of this stock. But until you clear back above the 200 or this trend line, right, it's likely that you come, and if you break this, right, you break this low, it's likely you come back for a double bottom at $2 to $3 flat. If you can see a pop here, then I think it's very, very likely you come back up to this trend line to test. It's going to be very important that you cross this. Otherwise, you'll see a rejection, potentially lower, because this up sloping support, once lost, right, got tested multiple times here. And you saw a rejection and then a lower low. If you come all the way back up to test this again, rejection, it's likely you're swinging to a lower low on the stock. So that's what we're watching here on the daily time frame of the GME warrants. You do currently have, right, the 9s just crossed through the 200. So we're going to watch how this affects the overall GME warrants. But one thing is for sure, right, when you zoom in here, you can kind of see this flag out formation on the 4-hour chart. That is your trend line to break. And that is your upsloping support. So you have a little bit of a bear flag, which if you broke down from the technical price target on would be, drum roll, 275. So that's what's looking like on the GME warrants. I would not try to catch the knife here. I think I want a little bit more technical clarity before doing anything else. But that's all I got today on GME, AMC, and the warrants. God bless each and every single one of you guys. And remember, traders, the best is yet to come. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you found value, and good luck.